Hello, Troglodyte Tribe, and welcome back. And this week, I am blessed to be in the company of Robin Nolan. Robin Nolan, thank you for joining us.
Woo. Amazing. I'm here. Good to see you, Wesley.
Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, for those who haven't seen Robin Nolan play yet... So Gypsy Jazz is kind of your thing. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about who's Robin Nolan and what was the Gypsy Jazz thing?
Yeah, exactly. I was brought up playing normal music. You know, my parents, my dad was a skiffle player from Liverpool, and my mum was a singer, and they travelled the world playing and singing, kind of doing country, Hank Williams, all sorts of stuff. And I was born into that. I was born in Vietnam, actually, because They were entertaining the troops, the American troops in Da Nang in '68. So that was all crazy, of course. We moved to Hong Kong. They had a jazz club or folk club or whatever. Always brought up around music, but normal music and Beatles, country, folk, blues. And then it wasn't until later that the whole Gypsy Jazz thing happened, kind of by chance, really.
Right, okay. So what was the spark? What just suddenly made you go, I want to go there?
Yeah, well, actually, it was. I was at Leeds College of Music, and then when I left there, we were kind of like young and hungry to do stuff, and we heard about this festival that was going on in France, in a place called Samois-sur-Seine, and it was before the internet, so we didn't really know where it was. We kind of looked on maps, and we piled into the car with my dad, and we drove there. And we arrived at this village, and we'd heard of Django Reinhardt, but it didn't. The penny didn't drop until you actually saw his people playing this music outside caravans, outside. You know, the romance hit you, the virtuosity really hit you, because on the records it was kind of like old dead people playing the music, but then it was suddenly like, Jesus, this is awesome. So, like everyone who goes to this festival, you kind of get blown away by the gypsies and the level of playing. And then we went home to England, and we just wanted to start playing it. So that's when the bug started, and it's never stopped, really.
Wow. And so how long ago was that?
That was actually in, 1990 or something like that. So there was no resources, to learn. We just kind of, we just figured out the first song, which was Minor Swing. So we just figured out that we saw this weird chord, the guys were using this chord for an A minor, which we would use, so that was A minor, and it's got that sixth in it, which kind of gives it that flavor, and it's an easy shape. But then they also use it for D7, and then they also use it for E7. So, so it's this shape sliding up and down. So it started with that shape, and then we would learn a tune like Minor Swing. And then we'd start to learn another tune. And then eventually, we started to put a little repertoire together. And when I was soloing, I was just doing the same bluesy stuff, which, I was like a kind of blues kind of player. So I was kind of doing bluesy stuff over the Gypsy Jazz repertoire. And I kind of still do that to this day. So, I was never an orthodox player. I never learned the actual rest stroke kind of gypsy picking technique. I've always done it in my own way. But that was where it all started, back in Samoa in 1990, yeah.
And that's just amazing. So in 1990, no internet. You've got to hope that there's no Spotify yet. So because there's no internet. You got to hope that your local record shop has got some of this music around, or charity shops, or just trying to find the old vinyls or the old tapes or whatever. That's insane. Yeah, and the books as well to go with it. They're not like there are now. It's working it out.
Exactly. It's kind of ironic that I've become like an educator and a teacher in this style, whereas when I started, I was literally clueless. And I think one of the keys to that is that I'm a normal guy, you know, who brought up with normal music, so I can relate to guys who are learning this stuff and kind of try and teach it in a kind of simplistic way.
Incredible. And then, so there's another part to you, which is the George Harrison side of your playing. So you've just recorded an album doing George Harrison songs, and you've got to use some incredible guitars whilst doing it. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that? What's happened there, and how did that come about?
Yeah, it's pretty. I still don't believe it myself, really, when I hear someone talking about that project. And the story with George goes back to, you know, after I was telling you, we came back to England after Samoa. We moved to Amsterdam, where I live now, because we could play on the street and we could play there every day. So we could actually work and play and practice and have fun, where we couldn't do that in England. And one day we were playing on the street in Amsterdam, and we were selling CDs. And one of George's gardeners from Friar Park, which is his kind of castle in England, saw us and thought, oh, you know, I think George would like this. So he picked up a CD and then gave it to George. And then George loved it. You know, George likes lots of music, as you know. And luckily my number was on the back, you know, so he actually called me up, had a surreal conversation with him.
How does that conversation start? Hi, this is George Harrison. Yeah, whatever, mate. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly like that. Luckily I didn't actually hang up, you know, a lot of disbelief and like, come on. And then it actually was him. So it was like this, hysterical conversation, you know. And he invited us to a Christmas party he was having at Friar Park. So great. We piled over, and that was in about 94. And then from then on, you know, and we met everyone, you know, all his friends are famous, you know, except for us, you know. And so we're sitting there playing, and because we didn't play rock or Beatles or any of that, I was nervous, but in a different way. And everyone there thought it was super cool, and George was kind of proud of us a little bit, and because we were young and not heavy into the industry and the business, and I think he found it refreshing, these guys from Amsterdam coming over.
Well, that's it. You're doing it for that passion still. It hasn't become an industry. It's the love of it, which is, you know, if you've moved out to a different country so you can play on the street, you've clearly got this as a strong passion.
That's right, and I think it reminded of him when he was young, you know, and the music was super cool for his friends, because everyone, in a way, all the old rockers and everyone knows of Django Reinhardt, and it's kind of cool to like Django, and genuinely kind of most people do. So having this music playing in his house for the party was really cool and really quite different. So we got to know him, you know. We played when we went back to play another one. We played anytime he had a party, he would just call us up and we would go over. So we were kind of his like resident band, you know. And that relationship carried on. Of course, he was interested in the guitar, and, you know, he loved Django and Eddie Lang and lots of things like that. And then he passed away. And then, you know, we played this amazing like kind of wake event the night before the concert for George at the Albert Hall, where all that cast and characters were there. So it was Ravi and Shankar and all Tom Petty and the boys, and just everyone. And we played a really somber event there for George, and Billy Preston was on piano, and, you know, it was just amazing. And after that, I kept in touch with Olivia, his widow, and Danny, his son, to this day, really. And we still go over and play for Danny and hang out, played at his wedding, all this stuff. We got quite a good friendship going now. And yeah, basically, you know, it was like one of these parties I was with Olivia, and it was kind of, I was like, you know, God, you know, I was just talking about George, you know, and his music, and we've always played "And I Love Her," the Lennon McCartney song, and, you know, that bit, and I said, "Oh, Olivia, is the Ramirez? You know, could you grab the Ramirez?" I just got the courage, you know, and she was glad. She just ran upstairs and then came back with the Ramirez, which is the guitar George used on "And I Love Her," "Till There Was You," a couple of others. And then just to pick it up and kind of go, and it sounds exactly the same as it does on the Beatles record. So it was like kind of like blown away. And then we were talking, and I was saying, you know, I've kind of like, it's always been a dream to kind of come full circle and record George's music in our style, my style, Gypsy Jazz. And then next level, like, what about if we use George's guitars? Imagine that, So she said, yeah, it sounds great, and then, but it took, even since then, it took a couple of years and COVID and all this stuff, and to get round to actually going back to Friar Park and then getting into the room with all the guitars there, all the Beatles guitars, and then, picking a couple and then recording. So that's where this album came about. And I've got like 10 songs, including And I Love Her. So 9 Harrison songs, the And I Love Her song, and then one of my songs. And I used the Gibson J160, which is the John Lennon and him bought that in '63 back in Liverpool. And that's actually the guitar that he's got was John's.
Right, okay.
There was this mix-up and one got stolen in some theatre and in the '60s. Anyway, that guitar is the only guitar that's on every Beatles album. So it's literally, they wrote like Love Me Do on it.
Right.
I saw her standing there. It's been used on rhythm on every single Beatles album. So it's got a really historical guitar. So I wanted to use that. And it's a bitch to play. It's kind of like
I was going to say, what's it like?
Yeah, it's it's like, the action's really high and it's all kind of a bit buzzy. But, anyway, in that, I had a day and a half to do this project, and I just worked really hard and just got a sound out of the guitar. I used the Ramirez, obviously, on a few songs, and then I also used his 12-string Rickenbacker on a song as well. So that was the project.
Some seriously iconic guitars. So are the guitars all sort of laid out on hanging up on a wall somewhere? Do you just walk into a room and go, and there they all are?
Yeah, exactly. Just like your room, or, like, it's like you just walk in and then it's like, oh, there's the telly from the rooftop and there's the Duo Jet, and they're all there along with all the Grammys and all that stuff. So it's in a sanctum. It's like being in Windsor Castle at some room where the all this jewelry is. But it's all rock and roll history there. So it's a real vibe. I mean, playing those guitars, it's not just casual. I felt very heavy and a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And a lot of emotions, and just wanted to do George justice, really, because I was thinking, I really hope he would like this music. That was ultimately the thing. So the album came out great. It's coming out later this year. I don't know when this video will air, but it'll be out in the fall this year. It's coming out on his label, Dark Horse Records.
So just so you know, the year is 2023. So it'll be later in 2023. So brilliant. Okay. And it's coming out on Dark Horse Records, which is even nicer. It's just, George Harrison's label.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. They do they're continuing George's thing with being a bit eclectic, and they've re-released a lot of Ravi Shankar's thing on there. They've even done a Billy Idol just recently, even Cat Stevens just recently. So it's very kind of wide. I'm just in there somehow. I'm just that kind of a unique
pinching
relationship
yourself.
I've got. Yeah. So it's nice. It'll give it'll get me new listeners, people who wouldn't usually listen to a Gypsy Jazz guitarist, in a new way. And it's not really a Gypsy Jazz album, it's a little bit different. So
I've been fortunate enough to have a listen to a few of the tunes, and I'm amazed. It makes me also want to pick up the guitar a bit more.
It's a challenge, listen, all those songs have got words, so it's always a challenge to make instrumental versions which aren't, sappy or what,
That's it. It's a difficult line, isn't it? But you've obviously clearly got the understanding of it to make it just this lovely musical piece rather than it feel like music. It's actually a wonderful musical piece. It's really nice.
That's what I've really gone for.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And so you're taking it on the road. So you've got a band, sort of a trio, and you can see Robin play this music live along with other Gypsy Jazz classics, and they can find out your gig list on your website.
Yeah, actually, mostly I'm just on Facebook. I'm not touring that much at the moment, but any gigs that I do usually put on Facebook, and I'm really looking forward to playing at your festival, your Beatles festival, which is amazing. on this Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So Robin's actually going to be our Sunday headliner on the Beatles Fest in Tenbury to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Beatles playing in Tenbury, which is I couldn't think of a nicer way to wrap up the whole weekend's festival with a new, fresh approach to keep this music alive.
Right. That's what it's all about, really. And we'll be playing some of those songs from the album, so you'll recognize some of the songs, but in an instrumental way. So
the other side of what you do is you teach. But I've always seen Gypsy Jazz as something for me to listen to, and completely unachievable for me. I've recently joined your course online, and
that's right.
It's been a massive eye-opener for me. It's just the way you teach it, and the way that you've got these wonderful hangout groups where people can go and share knowledge. It's so much more approachable than I ever thought it would be, and it's about playing rather than just sitting down theory. It's like, let's learn a song, and here's some ideas for the song. It's massively helped me, and it's something I really enjoy doing. If I got a couple of hours, it's like, I'm jumping on and going to play through. I'm going to go deep dive in a song. How did all that online side of the Robin Nolan come about?
Yeah, it's a big part of what I do now, and I'm really stoked that you enjoying the teaching in the club, and it is an amazing community, which I never, 10 years ago, I never thought this would be possible. It started with books. Turn of the century, we did these kind of like play along books, so it was like simple tab, come with a CD with a backing track, and it was like, this is how you play minor swing, Sweet Georgia Brown, Dark Eyes. And that was just the internet was getting going, and we put it on our site at the time, and they really kind of exploded, and we were sending them all around the world. And to this day, I was just in LA last week at a retreat, and there's guys who are like, I got your book in 2001 or whatever, and it's like, it kind of sparked a little bit of a resurgence in this music, because it took the whole sting out of the being intimidated, and it's a crazy music, if you really get into it. But on the surface of it, you can play a song, like I was saying earlier, if you know that shape, and you slide it up and down like a minor blues, you can go G minor there, C minor there, and then the D7 there. So you can kind of, and then you start to get the swing going. So it's like, the beauty of this music is that, someone who's just started could play with like one of the greats, but with jazz, it's a little bit more, there's a bit of hierarchy, and kind of, it's a bit more snobby or something. It's like a folk music, this, and it's played outdoors, it's played in pubs, it's played in parks, that's the thing. So the book sparked it all off, and we did 6 volumes of those repertoire books. And then it turned digital about 10 years ago, and I worked with a guy who's smart from New York, Jason. And he said, you should start doing videos. And I was like, no way, you know what it's like looking at the camera.
Yeah.
It's like, it's nerve-wracking. And I still get nervous, like looking at the camera thinking, imposter syndrome and who the hell am I, But once you start to get a little bit of feedback and you realize you're actually helping people, it spurs you on, So I just started doing YouTube videos and stuff like that, and made a little course, and it turned digital. And then this club that you mentioned that you joined, the Gypsy Jazz Club, that started about 3 years ago. And then it's all the lessons and everything, but then it's this community.
Hold it all together,
Yeah, we've got a 24/7 Zoom room. People meet there. I'll meet them if they've got a problem. We've got guest teachers. It's just so much stuff going on there. It's a really, 6 or 7 live events every month, and that's what I'm focusing on at the moment, and I love it. It's great.
Yeah, and then on a Sunday there's a big live hangout, which is really nice, right. And right,
it's like an open mic on.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
So I've if I'm being honest, I've learned tons by teaching, and I think you would agree that by teaching something, you actually think, oh yeah, that's actually what I'm doing, and you kind of solidify things that you do. And so it's really helped me too.
You have to deep dive into it a lot more, and then just really understand it rather than maybe just playing it the way. Yeah, but now it's like, I found that incredibly helpful. But I think you touched on it earlier. With this, there is a way to learn a few chords and play with people. You mentioned different types of jazz, I've always found you have to be really, really good just to be able to step in. Whereas this, actually, there is an entry level way to start and hang out and play with people and learn from them, rather than you having to sit in your bedroom for 4 or 5 years before you can even think about jumping in with someone.
That's it, man. And it goes for the rhythm, like I was saying. If you can just get a steady rhythm going. And also for the lead, you don't have to shred. I'm not a shredder, like in the scheme of things, absolutely not. Most guitar players play faster than me in this style. And I wish I could, I'm not saying I wouldn't want to. But so I rely on melodic things, quirky things, bluesy things, a little bit crossover, like I was saying before, unorthodox. So I'm kind of encouraging players who aren't, like, it wasn't a genius or extremely talented to actually have a go and, just take a blues scale and add a few notes and it'll sound kind of gypsy jazzy, so simplifying it in a way, but getting people going, and I really enjoy doing that, yeah.
Right then, so what's next for you? Obviously, you've got the album coming out later in this year. Then what's on the books for Robin Nolan?
Yeah, so it's like I said, the Gypsy Jazz Club is a big focus of what I'm doing on a daily basis at the moment. Retreats, we're typically hosting 4 or 5 around the world.
And that's it. They're like New York, they're in Shrewsbury, they're in Amsterdam. I just see them popping up all over the place.
That's right, and they're just events. Like 15 people come, and we spend 3 or 4 days together, having a great time with classes, and they're kind of like pretty cool experiences. But I would like to get out on the road more as well, especially with the impetus of this new album and the new music. Obviously, us guitarists, we love to teach, but, if we're honest, we would love to play in front of audiences as well.
It's a balance.
So it's a balance. So I'd love to, get that going again. Collaborations. I love the idea of collaborating with other guitarists. That's something I'd love to do. But I've got a small family here in Amsterdam, and at the moment, this kind of online existence has been great. But now it's kind of up and running. Love to get out there more, like I am doing this weekend,
Thank you again. So if you go to the description in this video, there's going to be links to videos of Robin playing in various different places and doing different styles. Jump on to his Facebook, check out his online course. I can personally vouch for the course. It's something you can never stop learning, and this is the one major area I just thought was never really approachable, but I'll just stick my toe in and see what it's like, and I get a huge amount out of it. So give it a try.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Troglodyte Tribe, and thank you, Robin Nolan, and I'll see you soon.
And Wesley, I was just checking out your channel. I really enjoy it too. Some great videos on there, and you're doing great work, so thanks for having me, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.